At the beginning of the story, two young Mormon missionaries, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, prepared to visit a set number of people to convert them to their faith and grow the society. The more innocent Paxton reflects on an adult film she recently watched, which made her feel sorry for those in the video, as their life's purpose seemed wrong. Barnes gives the impression of being a more experienced and successful missionary. She has already converted at least 7 people. The girls set out, stopping people walking by to talk about Christ. Few people show any interest. One girl even mocks Paxton, pulling her skirt down to see if Mormon women really wear magic undergarments. Nonetheless, the girls continuously visit those who had previously shown interest in their church. They lock their bicycles to a fence near a house and head for another door, just as a storm begins. After knocking, the girls wait for someone to open the door. Soon, a smiling gentleman, Mr. Reed, appears on the doorstep. The girls explain the purpose of their visit and ask if there is a woman in the house, as their community's rules require the presence of a woman when 2 young sisters enter. Mr. Reed assures them that his wife is home baking a pie in the kitchen. He kindly and politely invites the girls inside, takes their coats, and asks if they mind the walls being lined with metal. The girls aren't displeased. Mr. Reed invites the missionaries to sit and wait for his wife and her blueberry pie, something that sounds very tempting to the girls, who are soaked from the cold rain. He then leaves the room. Left alone, the girls look around, surprised by the old-fashioned decorations. Mr. Reed soon returns, promising again that his wife will come soon, and invites the girls to the table. The 3 sit down and begin discussing faith and religion. Reed asks about the girls' personal lives, and they share a little about themselves and how they found their faith. Reed shows his knowledge of Mormon teachings by pulling out their central book. Suddenly, he brings up Sister Barnes's dead father. Paxton admits that after death, she'd like to become a butterfly and sit on the hand of someone she loves. At this moment, several lamps suddenly go out. Reed blames technical issues and awkwardly asks permission to pose an uncomfortable, even tough question. The girls agree, but the question about Mormon polygamy makes them uncomfortable. Mr. Reed digs into the topic, and Barnes explains that polygamy was a necessary mission during the church's early years, as many deaths required growing the society, leading to men having multiple wives. Reed admits that he fears the church's founder simply used it as a cover for his bad behavior. After that, Barnes argues with him, and Reed completes that the most important thing is one's personal relationship with God. Unexpectedly, Reed changes the religious debate to the value of fast food. This excites Paxton, who builds a ladder ranking foods with her personal favorites at the top. Reed compares this to religion. As it turns out, he hasn't found a faith that stands on the top step for him. But through his studies, he has learned one truth: the more you know, the less you know. He claims to be overwhelmed with religious fast food, as they all claim to hold the truth. Sadly, he has not found the true religion. Though the situation grows tense, the girls still hope for a peaceful resolution and once again ask Mr. Reed to get his wife. The man leaves, and Barnes suggests they run, having noticed that the scented candle on the table smells like blueberry pie. Just then, Mr. Reed returns and invites the girls to the kitchen to meet his wife. He leads the way, but Barnes says they're getting a call from their church leader and pretends to talk, promising to be there soon. The girls try to leave, but Barnes remembers that their bicycles are locked and the keys are in her coat pocket. They try to open the door, but it's locked. Barnes asks Paxton to climb out the window, but it's too small, and their phone call doesn't go through. At that moment, the lights in the room go out completely. The girls are forced to move deeper into the house, where lights are on and music is playing. Reed seems happy that they have finally entered, but Barnes asks if they can leave as they were told on the phone to return. The man pretends to have just remembered their coats and hands them over. Barnes quickly notices her key is missing, but it is soon found in Paxton's pocket. Barnes asks him to unlock the front door, but Reed explains that it is set on a timer and cannot be opened until morning. However, the girls can leave through the back door. Noticing the missionary's nervousness, he adds to the idea that everyone is free to choose their own path. He also points out that he knows they could not have gotten a call, as he had already mentioned the metal walls, which block all cell signals. Barnes decides to stop arguing and asks which of the 2 doors they can leave through. Reed seems confused. The doors look the same, only one is labeled faith and the other doubt. Suddenly, he asks a question. Do they still believe his wife is in the next room? Because everything suggests otherwise. The man starts a deep talk about religion and belief. He placed the blueberry-scented candle on the table because he wanted them to think about the things they believe in, just because someone told them to. Barnes decides to act and heads toward the faith door, but upon opening it, she sees stairs leading to a basement. She then moves to the second door, but there is no clear way out. At the same time, the church elder begins to worry about the girls. Barnes, meanwhile, begs Reed to let them go peacefully, reminding him that the church knows their route and will find them soon. However, Reed suggests they discuss the question of choosing the correct door. He invites the missionaries to the table and suddenly pulls out the game Monopoly, puts on a record, and keeps talking. He claims that half the people who buy the game never finish it. There's also a game called The Landlord, almost the same as Monopoly in its main ideas. Reed shares the story of the game's creation, which surprises the girls, but he insists he is only trying to explain his ideas more clearly. He plays the same song again and keeps the talk going. There are 3 religions that believe in one God: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. He says, is like a well-known game, with Christianity being Monopoly. Reed again talks about the song, sharing how its creators went to court to prove the tune had been copied by another famous band. The girls are totally confused, but are forced to listen. Reed concludes that retellings change the meaning, covering up the original. Judaism is the first religion, yet it has the fewest followers. Why is that? He believes missionaries are sellers of religion, and when people let them into their homes, they join in a talk about buying and selling ideas. At this point, Reed turns off the lights and, using a flashlight, points to pictures on the walls. He starts explaining that the holy books people honor are just retellings of stories passed down by ancient people. The story of a savior doing miracles was already well known long before his birth. Meanwhile, the elder keeps looking for the girls, knocking on doors, but no one has seen them. Reed goes on, mentioning old gods who came before Jesus. He also compares Christian and Mormon stories to Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which leaves the girls completely lost. Reed concludes that if God exists and people are totally dependent on him, that is scary. But if he doesn't exist and people are left to take care of themselves, that is also scary. So the church is either the truth or a lie. Now he tells them they can choose a door. Paxton, very scared, begs Barnes to go through doubt just to escape, but Barnes suddenly heads for the first door, believing that Reed will not let them go. She believes he is trying to prove a point that only makes sense to him. Right now, it is important to show her faith with confidence. She argues against Reed's earlier points about the similarities between religions. They believe in God, and they will go through the first door. Let God decide what happens to them. The girls find themselves in a dark basement with a single window, covered by bars. Barnes manages to remove a wooden board, but then they hear the sound of a door opening and someone coming into the room. Barnes gives Paxton a letter opener she had grabbed earlier and tells her to stab Reed, thinking he wouldn't expect it from her. Their code phrase will be a mention of the magic undergarments. However, instead of Reed, a strange figure enters the basement, sets a pie on the table, and sits silently at a distance. Suddenly, music starts playing from upstairs, and the girls find a listening tube that connects the basement to the study. While carving wooden figures at his desk, Reed announces that the woman sitting near them is a living prophet. They will serve as witnesses to confirm a true miracle right before their eyes. Reed explains that the prophetess will eat the poisoned pie and die, and then be brought back to life. The girls watch this process in fear. Reed tells them to confirm that the woman's heart has stopped, which they do unwillingly. Now, all that remains is to wait for her to come back to life. At that very moment, the Mormon elder rings the doorbell, looking for the girls. Reed locks all the doors from inside, for that the elder fails to hear their screams. Meanwhile, the girls' bicycles have disappeared. Disappointed, the girls pull a rug toward the door to get a box of matches lying on it. Meanwhile, the elder leaves, and Reed goes back to the study. But then the doorbell rings again, and Barnes manages to grab the box of matches. Standing at the door is the elder once more. Meanwhile, the girls turn to the prophetess and notice they are shocked to see that she seems to have moved. The elder gives Reed a pamphlet from their church and leaves again. The girls try to light the matches, but are terrified when they see the prophetess suddenly coming back to life. She begins sharing a vision of the afterlife. Reed returns and asks the girls to describe what they saw, and he is ready to write down their words, which will become a part of his proof of the afterlife. Paxton repeats unclear words about angels, and Reed assures them he will show them God by killing them, but it will only be temporary, as they will be brought back to life also. Suddenly, Barnes declares that she experienced clinical death at the age of 4. She saw the same thing as the prophetess: bright white light, clouds, and an overwhelming desire to return. She insists it wasn't a prediction, but a common vision from a near-death experience. Therefore, Reed killed the woman for nothing. Then, she signals Paxton to act, but before Paxton can do anything, Reed suddenly slashes Barnes's throat, Seeing the horrifying scene, Paxton runs upstairs, screaming and banging on doors, and realizes it's totally hopeless. Then she returns to find Reed sitting beside Barnes's body, claiming that she too will return from the death. He pulls a metallic object from her hand, declaring it proof that Barnes was artificial so that they are all living in a fake world. Paxton recognizes it as a birth control implant and argues that his idea cannot be proven. Reed agrees, but points out that it's like all religions. You either believe or you don't. Paxton accuses Reed of planning the entire scene and swapping out the prophetess's body when the doorbell rang. She remembers that the prophetess was in a different position. Another woman must have entered through a hidden door to replace the dead one and deliver a pre-written story of the afterlife. To cover this up, Reed killed Barnes. Determined to prove herself right, Paxton finds a hidden passage leading out of the basement, but she slips into an even darker cell filled with demonic ritual items and women locked in cages. Reed catches up to her and demands her answer about the one true religion. Paxton realizes that as soon as they entered the house, Reed took their keys, unlocked their bikes, and hid them. He did all of this to convince them that the only true religion is the desire to control others. Reed agrees with her answer, explaining that the women in the cage are there because it was their choice. He tells her that she too has spent her life following others' orders. Even the church decided what underwear she would wear, referring to the magic garments. Hearing the code phrase, Paxton stabs Reed in the neck with the letter opener and tries to escape through the disbelief door. But she ends up back in the same cell where Barnes's body lies. Badly wounded, Reed catches up to her and stabs her. Then bleeding out, Paxton begins to pray, not for herself, but out of mercy. Just as Reed prepares to finish her off, Barnes rises and delivers a deadly blow to Reed with the wooden board before collapsing and dying once more. Paxton escapes to freedom, but when she stops outside, a butterfly briefly lands on her hand, a touching response to her earlier wish to transform into a butterfly and visit her loved ones. Although the film is a horror story, it offers viewers a chance to reflect on their own faith, beliefs, and the deeper question: is the idea of the one true religion ultimately about control?